it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm here to kick off our messenger bag series here at Sewspire. For the month of November, we will be making a new messenger bag every Friday at noon. Today I am going to show you how to craft this everyday messenger bag, which has a fixed webbed strap, a swivel fob closure here on the flap. Underneath the flap are 3 slip pockets, and then inside the bag are 3 more slip pockets along that rear wall. So if this looks like a project you'd like to know how to make, stay tuned and I'll show you step by step how to sew this sweet everyday messenger bag. Shall we get started? Okay, we're going to begin by crafting the interior and the exterior pockets, and these are both crafted from 2 pieces of material that are 9 inches tall by 15 inches wide. I have a quilt weight cotton for my interior, and then a pretty distressed that is a woven material for the exterior. It's a little thicker than the cotton. It reminds me of a lightweight denim, and it has this nice distressed finish on it that's going to be really attractive. So to craft this pocket, you're going to position your material, 1 lining piece and 1 exterior panel, right sides facing, and then using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, stitch across 1 long edge. So you have essentially joined the material together into 1 panel. Then go ahead and turn that so the right sides are facing out. And then you will take the bottom raw edge and turn that over 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch on both pieces and press that well. And you will need 2 of those pockets. And this technique allows you to have a little bit of that interior popping up on the top and the base of the pocket, so it gives the look of faux piping, and I really like that because it adds a little bit of interest to the bag without overwhelming the bag. So pick the best out of the 2 pockets for the exterior. And all we're going to do with the exterior pocket at this point is top stitch across that top lip. I'm going to run 2 rows of top stitching across there. It's important to leave the bottom of the exterior pocket unstitched at this point because we are going to be inserting our hardware for our flap to close in between those pocket layers, but we're not quite ready to do that just yet. So I'm just going to add that top stitching across the top of this pocket. And then I'm going to do the same for the interior pocket. And this exterior fabric has some natural flaws in it, which will add character to this bag, but this particular pocket is going to be on the inside. And I have my pockets all prepped and ready to go. Now I want to position those on the body panels. So I'm going to begin with the interior body panel, which measures 30 inches long by 15 inches wide. And I have backed that with some quilt batting. And then what I want to do is fold that in half so I end up with a 15 by 15 inch piece. And I want to notch out 2.5 inch corners from the bottom right and left hand corners. And then That's what that looks like when it's open. So you end up with these center notches, which are 5 by 2.5 inches. And that's what we'll use to give the bag its depth. And so I have a nice quilt weight cotton for my interior lining. I want to take my pocket and I want to position that on one side of that, and I'm going to come down 3 inches from the top of that. Where the notches are becomes the base of the bag. And now you get to decide if you want your pocket divided in half, if you'd like your pocket divided in thirds, or some other configuration. I'm going to go ahead and do thirds. So I like to press in my vertical stitch line so I can keep that nice and straight. And generally you can finger press into the material. You are also welcome to steam press that in. And I like to put some pins where those press lines are. That's helpful in case you have to walk away from the project for a little bit. So I have my pocket in place. Now I'm going to stitch across the base of that pocket, which you remember is open. And I'm just going to run 1 row of stitching across there. And then I'm going to run my 2 rows of vertical stitching to divide the pocket in thirds. I have my interior pockets divided in thirds. Now the next step is to fold over the opposite end of the body panel and position it right sides facing. And I want to take care and line up those sides and my corner notches. And then using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm going to stitch down the right hand side, the left hand side. I am not stitching in the corners yet. And then after I stitch the sides, I just want to peel back those layers and make sure that I have captured the pocket and both the front and the back of the interior in that stitch line. Then I can go ahead and trim that up to 1/4 inch. I want to reach inside and remove those pins that were holding the pocket in place. And now I can align the side seam with the center of the base, and you just pull on that opening there, and I will be stitching across there using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and that's what's going to give this bag its depth. And I'm going to repeat that process for the opposite side. I'm just aligning that side seam with the center of the base and pulling on those edges, and then stitching across there using 5/8 of an inch. And now my interior is complete. I'm going to take this top edge and turn it over about 1 inch. It's a great size, perfect for everyday use. And the quilt batting allows this to stand up on its own. Now I'm going to set the interior aside for a few moments while we construct the exterior. So the exterior is also 15 by 30 and has the 2.5 by 5 inch notches out of the center. And we've already prepared that exterior pocket, so I'm going to position that on one side of the exterior, 3 inches from the top. And then for this, I'm going to be attaching a 1.5 inch rainbow swivel fob to a piece of 1.5 inch wide cotton webbing, and this webbing is 4 3/4 inches long. And I'm just going to thread that through there and then fold it in half. I'm going to run a row of stitching across that top edge there to keep everything aligned. And then this swivel fob with the webbing attached is going to get positioned at center in between the pocket layers. And I just want a smidgen of that hanging out at the base. And then on the flap, we're going to be attaching this little ring. And this is how the flap is going to close. So this is kind of thick. So I'm going to go nice and slow, and I'm going to back stitch across there, as that will become a stress point for this pocket. Okay, now that I have this tab in place here on this pocket, I realize how thick this is here. So I'm going to pivot and divide this exterior pocket in thirds so that I don't have to stitch right through the center of that. So I have marked in 5 inches from each side, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch in those vertical pocket divisions so that I have a 3-way divided pocket on the exterior as well. Alright, now I have a 3-way divided exterior pocket in place, and my swivel clasp tab at the base at center on the exterior pocket. This exterior panel is backed with some fusible Pellon 808. You could also use quilt batting if you want. I like the combination of the batting and the Pellon 808 for this project. It doesn't really matter which goes on which panel. So the next step is to position those exterior panels right sides facing, just as we did for the interior. Line up those corner notches and the sides, and then using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, you're going to stitch the right hand side and the left hand side, and then you will align that center of the base with the side seam on each corner to give the bag its depth. And then with the exterior, you're going to turn that right side out, and you're going to turn that top edge inward an inch. And then it's time to bring back over the lining and fit that inside. And with the lining in place, the bag has a lot of stability. It's very fun. Now the next step is for us to craft the flap. So the flap for this bag is crafted from 2 pieces of material, the quilt weight cotton with the quilt batting on the back, and then the woven denim-like material with the Pellon 808 on the back. And these cuts of material measure 13 inches wide by 15 inches tall. And I want to position those right sides facing, and then I'm going to go ahead and angle the corners just slightly at the bottom of the flap to give it a little bit of interest. So I'm going to come in 2 inches and go over 2 inches, and I will take that triangle and I will use it on the opposite side to attain an equal angle across there, so that my flap looks like this. And then I'm going to stitch the left, the right hand sides across the angle and across the bottom of the flap. And for this, I am also using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. When I get to the angle, I'm going to sink my needle and pivot with the needle down. And then once I've stitched all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and trim that up to 1/4 inch. And this is what the flap looks like after it's pressed. Now I want to go ahead and top stitch all the way around the finished edges on that. And I have a nicely finished flap here. Now I need to install the hardware that is going to be attached at center here and allow my swivel clasp to hook and secure the flap closed. And so this hardware requires me to punch 2 little holes in the material, and so first thing I want to do is find out exactly where center is on this. So the bottom part of this flap is 8 inches, so center is going to be right at 4, and then I need to be able to mark where to poke those holes. So initially I'm going to put 2 little pins in there. And then I want to bring this up to make sure. And it looks like this is going to land right on the stitch line. So I'm going to use a little marker to mark where I need those holes. And then I will use my cam press to poke those holes. But you could also use your seam ripper to rip tiny holes. And I just position that fabric right up on there, and I have the punch press in there, and that just pierces all those layers of fabric. It is important to use a fusible interfacing when you're poking holes in the material. You can see it goes right through there, and so now I should be able to fit that hardware right up on there. And then there is a back plate that sits on top of there, and 2 little screws which will hold everything together. And this little handy dandy tool that came with the machine is perfect for tightening down these little tiny screws. And then the hardware is attached just like that. It's really pretty. It looks gorgeous with this floral on the inside. And I love how it picks up the blue on the outside. That was easy to install. And I'm glad that I came across this little tool. Your machine may not have come with one of these. I don't know what it's called, but it sure is useful. Its primary purpose is for changing the needle, but I'm sure that it has many uses. So now I have my hardware on the flap, so I can go ahead and test fit the flap. So I need to bring back over the interior and the exterior. And this is how that will function. It's super cute. It adds a lot of fun and color and interest to the bag. So when you're fitting the flaps, it's easier to work with pins versus the clips. So you may need to swap those out. And the raw edge of the flap is going to get tucked in between the interior and the exterior along the rear. And you can fit this to suit your needs. If you think you may be over filling the bag, then you're going to want to leave a little extra depth on that flap, which is this little area here. Average fold over there would be about 1.5, 1.25 inches to allow, for some contents to be in the bag. So I am going to first secure the flap on each side before I unhook that and come in at center. And it's really important that you keep your lining and your exterior aligned here, because when we're stitching around the top, we don't want to miss capturing that lining in our stitch line. So make sure everything feels even. Okay, and that looks great and everything functions. I'm happy with the length of the flap there. Okay, so for this bag, I am going to be installing a fixed strap on this. And so I have this coordinating 1.5 inch webbing, which I want to measure. I'm going to be wearing this bag cross body. So I want to measure and make this so it fits me perfectly. So I had a 61 inch cut of this, which I am trimming off about 10 inches. So for me, a 51 inch strap length is good. And I'm going to be installing this strap in between the interior and the exterior at those side seams. And I'm going to tuck that down in there about 2 inches on each side because I want to be able to reinforce that. If you had an additional O-ring and a tri-glide, you could make this adjustable. I do not have a rainbow O-ring, so I like all my hardware to match. So I'm just going to create a nice fixed strap here, which would be totally fine because messenger bags really are primarily designed to be worn cross-body. So I have this in place. I'm just going to test fit that and make sure that I don't need to adjust that strap any, and that's actually a really good length and comfy. I could maybe have it a little shorter, but in the winter wearing a coat, that length will be nice. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now the next step is for me to position this up on the machine deck and stitch all the way around the perimeter of the bag. I am going to start with one of the straps and then make my way across the flap first because I do not want to risk that flap shifting as it moves under the machine. And then after you make it all the way around that perimeter and you're sure that everything is as you would like it to be, then you can come back in and add a second row of stitching at those straps, just in case you have a heavy load. Okay, I've made it all the way around. This turned out darling. I absolutely love the colors of this bag. It's so happy, but totally appropriate for the colder winter months with this sky blue on the exterior, but I love the pop of color. So I want to give you some measurements on this before we say goodbye. So right at center, it's spanning 13 inches across. Height wise is 12 inches. Across the base is 8 inches, and the depth on this is 5.5 inches. It is perfect for everyday use, and the crossbody styling is super practical. Keeps your hands free. So I want to thank you all for sewing with me. I hope you enjoyed the project. I'll be back next Friday with another messenger bag. For the month of November, we will be making various styles of messenger bags. Until then, as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. I hope you have an awesome weekend. Thank you for sewing with me.